You're listening to a Zaboys Media Podcast.
Welcome to Make It Make Sense, the show where we at Zaboys take the worst and sometimes good plans, sometimes we'll break down good plans of fiction, fact, real life, and even, I mean, just we're gonna take bad plans, try to make them better. You know the drill. I'm Positive C.
And I'm Thorny, James Thorny Thornquist, or Jim the Brain Box. You call me whatever the hell you want. I don't care.
Yeah, just don't call him late for dinner because he's hungry. He's a hungry Thorny.
I remember the last time I was called for dinner.
We're going to have a little fun with a real life plan. Today is our first real life plan, and it involves one of the hosts here at Make It Make Sense and Zaboys. So today we're going to break down the plan of Positive C committing a felony, multiple felonies. That's right. We're going to talk about me, Chris Edwards, committing 2, maybe 3 burglaries in the year of our Lord 2006. People who know my history, Chris Edwards. Hi. You know, you can find me on the interwebs at Positive C, at _Positive C, a bunch of underscores in there on Instagram, and then Chris Edwards on Facebook, all that stuff. If you know my history, you know that I am sadly a felon in the state of Texas. I did some bad things, Thorny. I did some bad things.
I don't think I've ever heard the full story, Brian. I've heard the bits of it. I don't think I've ever heard, from point A to point Z of what all went down, what happened, why it happened. So this will be interesting to hear about. Like, it's going to open up a new door to your past.
Yeah, so let's rewind. Let's get into the rewind machine. Back to around maybe November of 2005. I had just turned 18.
Cool. You're an adult.
In like the month before. Yeah, just barely an adult. Still in high school. But I, for one, thought I was so much more emotionally and intellectually advanced than I was. I thought I had it. I had a okay job. I worked at the Buckle. I was a good salesman at the Buckle too. I was making some good money. Layers. It affected my clothing style and my wardrobe style for years after working at the Buckle. Layers and accessories.
Yeah, I think we all had a run-in with the Buckle. The Buckle was a very interesting thing around 2006, 2007, up to about 2009. But sorry, that's not what we're here to talk about. You go on.
So I was there. I was living, a good life for a teenager, about to graduate high school. Mm-hmm. But I was also very much heavily influenced by the people around me. Like I will admit that. Full stop. Yeah. Well, I never. We were more into pretending that our lives were a lot worse off than they actually were. Like, well, I mean, I knew a kid who actually was pretty rough around the edges, and had some stuff in his past where it's like, all right, you are kind of the hardcore street ruffian kind of kid, but the other, I grew up in fairly suburban Arlington. There wasn't a lot of, rough around the edges areas where we were.
No, yeah. I think when we were in high school, you had a lot of, especially because we both grew up in suburbs. I think you had a lot of kids just trying to play gangster and play hoodlum and play punk rock. And, I think that's why emo took off so well when we were in high school, is because it was like, where do I put this people don't understand me energy? But really, I'm living the same high school story that almost every child has lived. But
no, exactly, and that's where I was at. And I thought I one, was smarter than I was, and two, that I could handle myself in different situations better than I actually could. And so I decided to move out of a very, very nice house in Mansfield, and live in like a street urchin apartment with two of my buddies that ended up being like a flop house. You know, we didn't do hard drugs. Like, well, okay, people did hard drugs, but like I don't think anyone ever shot up anything or anything like that. I think like the most we did was, you know, kids, because we could find it. Yeah, kids doing blow. You know what I mean? Like that's probably the hardest thing. Yeah, party drugs, and that parties all the time. That's where I learned I had a love for a Star Wars Battlefront 2, because instead of going to school, finishing off my senior year, I decided to just spend most of my time doing that. Like most of my days were spent doing that, playing Star Wars Battlefront 2 and smoking lots of weed. So not making the best decisions, even though, because I could have, and in hindsight, this is where we'll maybe make the plan better later on. If I would have just went to work and to school, the place would have been fine. Like, yeah, it would have been a little rough, you know what I mean? It would but I would have made it. Like, I wouldn't have committed the crimes. Like, we wouldn't have gotten to that point. I should have just went to work and probably to school too. Yeah. So we just would have that. But anyway, getting to the point to where we're now, it's, I think it's about January of the next year, of 2006, right? So a month, 2 months, basically. 2 months. Rent's backed up. We haven't done anything. The place looks like crap. We're struggling. Both of my roommates got fired from their jobs. Michael got fired. Cody did not get fired, but still was not doing right. I didn't have a job anymore. Nobody had a job. It was basically one person, and he wasn't even spending the money on rent. We found out later on that the guy who actually had a job was still spending his money on just crazy things. And so we're at a point where, man, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to pay for the apartment? At that point in time, I should have probably left. I did not. We decided to follow the advice of, let's call him Turquoise.
Okay.
His name was a color anyway. But
we should probably avoid using real names in this situation. Yeah,
just for anonymity purposes. Turquoise had few in 2006 lingo. He had a few licks that we could hit, right? And because I believe, and this is where my memory gets fuzzy on it, because it was 20 years ago now, and I believe he did lawn service for a few different houses and a few different people, and he was very much rough around the edges and put himself in a lot of situations that he probably shouldn't have. And apparently he talked to these people. And again, this is where what he says and then what happened with the actual crime and the consequences of everything kind of line up and kind of don't. He said that 3 houses wanted us to commit these burglaries, wanted us to break in, take whatever we really wanted, right? As long as we didn't, I think like the rule was like no TVs, nothing like that. But we could take almost anything else that we wanted, and they were going to claim more than what was taken on the insurance and commit insurance fraud. So we would get the money, we could sell, pawn anything or whatever. They would, the houses wouldn't be like broken into. They would be, we would be let in there basically. And then they would, hide the other materials like the TVs and stuff like that, claim insurance fraud on that, or claim it on the insurance, get the money, still have the stuff. And then that was how 2 of them were supposed to work. Okay. One of them that let's just say that the first one was actually probably the worst one. We probably shouldn't have done any of them. But the first one that we did was like a legit B&E. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's what I'm doing. And yeah, bad times all around on that one. And then the other 2 were this insurance fraud setup. That in itself is a bad idea.
Insurance fraud or
insurance fraud? Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, and so we did it. The first one, I guess the second one, the second one we did, we did the thing. We got in. The back window was open. We were in. We got like silverwares. Like we grabbed just stuff, and we weren't good at it. Like let me be very clear. In my very very short criminal history, I was a bad criminal. I was not good. I was lucky and then dumb. And so like we're in the house, everything's, going weird because I had to like drive through a field to get to the back of the house and all this stuff. And while we're in there, apparently a neighbor had seen us back my truck, my little red truck, to the back fence and saw us, and we panicked. Everybody ran except for one guy who jumped in the back of my truck, and I was in the truck, so I drove like a mad person through Arlington, being halfway chased by this person, and got away. Got away, got back to the house, got back over to the apartment, and this is where I think that the decision making processes of an 18-year-old kid is very, very different from any other age after that, right?
Yeah.
Even in my mid-20s, if I would have gotten to that point, that would have been it. I would have been like, no, okay.
Yeah,
I'm out.
Done doing this. That was too high stakes.
That was I can't believe we got away. Like, holy crap. Okay, we're done. No more. Nope, we did one more after that. Got caught at the scene by the cops, running through Southwest Arlington on foot. Like it was a crazy situation, wild situation. And so with all that, I still got probation.
Yeah.
The consequences became probation because I got probation because it was my first offense, but I got 8 years. Like I got set up basically to fail because 8 years probation I would have been 26 by the time I got off probation. If I would have done a full 8 years, that's incredibly long, a lot of money. I did fail, and so I ended up going to prison. So from moving out of my house but that was a while later. I was on the run for a bit. I decided not to report because I knew I was going to go to prison. So I was like, let me
help me hide.
Okay. You want to hear why I wanted to stay? This is around 2008 is when I decided I wasn't going to report because The Dark Knight was going to come out. And I really wanted to stay out long enough to see The Dark Knight. So I was like, okay, after that comes out, I'll turn myself in. I'll go see it in movies and then I'll turn myself in. But I was just kicking it and having a good time, and they weren't looking for me. So I just stopped. For about a year and a half, I just hung out and kicked it and worked at a Sonic. But yeah, so that's about a 4-month situation of moving out to, committing the felonies. Yeah. That so many bad decisions were made. I don't want to make doing the crimes make sense because I don't think there's a way to make that make sense.
No, there's not. I mean, there's ways you could have done them better. Like I could. Okay, I hate to say that.
Let's go down that road. We're here. This is a podcast.
I mean, look, I grew up with a lot of in similar situations. Not so much where I was doing it, but my mom dated guys that did a lot of thievery, a lot of breaking and entering stuff. I had friends who were into that. Some of them that did get also prosecuted. So it's one of those things that my thought is that Turquoise probably lied to you guys from the first place. I don't think he probably had an in with these people. He probably just knew these would be easy places to hit because this is probably something he's done before.
I will say this, that the last house did get in trouble for insurance fraud.
Okay, so maybe they were in on it
because so my restitution at one point in time was $5,000. we didn't take anything from that particular house.
Yeah.
Like nothing was taken. So I knew of, because we got caught at the scene.
Yeah.
And so, I actually didn't even plea for that case until the restitution got lowered down. And then that ended up being a insurance fraud case after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
maybe
might have been legit. Might have been someone literally setting it up. Now, the first one, since it had to be an actual B&E, I don't think that person was in on it.
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think so at all.
Yeah. Second one, maybe, but if I remember, that's where the neighbor caught you.
Yes.
Yeah. First thing, I mean, don't back the truck up to the fence. That
was dumb.
Unless you have lawn equipment in the back of the truck and you're trying to play it off that you're there to mow the neighbor's yard. Or you're there to mow that house's yard and do landscaping.
That's amazing. And again, let's preface this: we are not giving criminal advice right now.
No,
but our job on this podcast, because we've made it, is to make the plans make sense. And yes, that part of the plan would make sense if we had a leaf blower and a lawnmower, in the back of the truck, and or idea seal. Or we could have had a moving sticker.
Yes.
Like on the car.
Yeah.
Like that right there. If you have a van and, you're in that kind of line of work, spend the money, get a moving vinyl. There you go. Moving company vinyl. You're not going to get looked twice for a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It's all about your cover story. As long as you can convince somebody that what you're doing is legitimate, most people won't bat an eye. It's like the whole concept of like, if you carry a clipboard or you put it like a safety vest on, or you carry a ladder, people will let you in anywhere, because all you have to do is like, oh, I'm part of so-and-so maintenance. And people just let you in.
Oh yeah. Clipboards are like that. The golf cart is also a thing. You seem very important when you're driving a golf cart anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, or like even big concerts and events. Like, if you notice, most shirts for workers at concerts and events just say staff on the back. You can buy a black shirt that says staff anywhere. And then, like you said, you just carry a clipboard. People are probably going to believe, maybe run a fake wire to your ear so it looks like you have a headset on. Most people are going to believe and aren't going to bat an eye, which that said, don't do these things because they are illegal.
Exactly. Zaboys is not responsible for any action taken from us making this bad 20-year-old plan make sense.
Yeah. Now, I find it odd, though, that they didn't tell y'all, like they didn't have y'all take electronics, because those are the highly insurable items. So if you want to commit insurance fraud, that's the route you go.
So I think the plan was they were going to hide them.
They were going to pull the electronics, put them somewhere else until the whole thing was done, and then buy new ones, sell those, or return those for credit, pull their old ones out of some sort. Yeah. I've seen similar plans like that, where you commit a legitimate act, but in doing so, you then turn around and create the fraud through the return policy. I had a friend that got busted for that. He'd go to Walmart. He'd walk in. He'd buy a $350 TV. He'd walk out. He'd hand the receipt to somebody else. Somebody else would go in and grab the same TV, show the receipt at the door. Hey, I bought this. Walk out with it. Come back, return the one they bought, have a free TV plus their $350 back, turn around and sell the TV. Yep. This is now why electronics are kept behind locked cases and or have those weird bindy alarm things on them, because that has to be removed as a second form of security.
The more you know. So okay. So that make sense. You know what I mean? With better preparation for the crime, actually being good criminals. Like, we weren't good. We were not good.
So growing up, I had teachers who used to always say, criminals aren't smart. Most criminals fail because they lack the intelligence to fully think out their plans. And I was like, what are you talking about? But it's kind of true. Like, this criminals that have gotten away with the most in the world were very intelligent people who did it in such weird ways. Like, I remember reading once about a guy that he would rob banks simply by walking in with a note, a Starbucks cup, and a hat on. Mm-hmm. And so the hat would hide his face from all the cameras, and he'd slide the note to the teller, and it just said, give me blah, 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 and bills. This is a robbery. And they would, they'd be like, oh, and he'd say something like, I have a gun on me or something like that. Well, because most people don't want to be in a situation, they'd give him the money. Then they'd call the cops. Well, what he would do is he would just walk out. He'd put the money into the Starbucks cup, and then he'd throw the hat in the trash. Now, because now everyone's like, oh, he was wearing a hat. He was wearing a hat. Yeah, well, now you're looking for a guy wearing a hat. You're not looking for a guy not wearing a hat. And then if he needed to, he could just drop the Starbucks cup somewhere and come back around 30 minutes later, pick it back up.
Right. Yeah. It's well thought out. Out,
And non-violence. So if he does get busted, it's just, it's less prison time. I think he got away with 15 of those before he got caught.
Yeah. And there's the McDonald's. They just did the Roof Man movie about him, the guy who would hide in the roofs of McDonald's and break in after everyone left. Whatever. Yeah. Well, no, that's where he lived. He lived in the Toys R Us. But he got caught. His first crimes were, I think, robbing McDonald's. Okay. And that's why they called him the Roof Man, because he was coming down through the roofs of these places after they would close, rob them and then come out. Yeah. Right. And so, there's ways to be a better criminal now.
Yeah. But here, we actually want to make sense. Sorry.
I would like to make 18-year-old Chris's plan of moving out of a very, very cushy, it was, 5-bedroom. We had a big game room. We had a theater room. That house, moving out of that house at 18 years old, make it make sense.
I mean, you were 18. I remember being.
Can I give you a couple of other parameters too?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So this is other things that were going on in 18-year-old Chris's brain. I had lived in another fairly cool house most of my life growing up, right by where I went to school. Mm. And so all my friends were there and all this stuff, moved to this big, kind of typical big suburban house in Mansfield. Yeah. At the time, in 2006, the corridor between Arlington and Mansfield wasn't as built up, so it seemed so much further away than it actually was.
Yeah, it felt like a 30-minute drive to get from Mansfield to Arlington, even though it's literally like 15 at max.
Exactly, about 15 minutes down 287 and whatnot, and I'm back in the hood. You know what I mean? I'm back hanging right where I was. So it's like, but back when I'm 18 and driving myself, it's like, I'm so far away from everybody, you know what I mean? So I wanted to move closer. I felt, it was my first feeling of isolation. Mm-hmm. So there was that going through my head at the time too. And I was kind of technically the only child living at the house because my sister had moved out a long time ago. So it was just me. It was just me out there.
No, I get that. I get that entirely, actually, because similar situation. I lived in DeSoto from 18 to 19.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. I would drive. I worked in Arlington. All my friends were in Arlington and Grand Prairie. So I would drive all the way from South DeSoto into Grand Prairie as much as I could. I went to college in community college in I guess you could call it Oak Cliff / Dallas. It's hard to say.
Bishop
technically falls. No, it wasn't Bishop Arts. It was Mountain View, which is I guess technically.
Oh yeah.
It's technically Dallas, but it's like right there on the edge of Irving, Dallas, Duncanville, kind of like Oak Cliff-ish. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm right there with you. I felt so isolated being 40 minutes away from my friends, or 30 minutes even, depending on traffic. I'd get off work and I'd go hang out at what was basically the flop apartment, except for we weren't doing hardcore drugs. We were just drinking and playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering and Smash Brothers. So it was in a sense kind of like a frat house, but it was one guy's apartment that had 4 people living there and 5 more of us that would just hang out constantly.
Yeah, that's exactly the situation that we were doing, like to a T. Besides, this is getting a little bit more wild and crazier as the time went on. Like there were other things that like we were gonna do to make money that I'm glad we did not venture into that path, but it was offered to us basically, and we were like, I don't think we're ready for that yet. I don't think we're ready for that yet. Yeah. So
especially when it comes to crimes, it's one of those things you have to realize quickly. You're like, oh, I don't like this feeling of having to look over my shoulder constantly and worrying that someone's going to bust me at any second.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, you don't, if you have that feeling from committing crimes, you don't continue to do it because you're like, oh, that's your conscience getting to you. Or, just the idea that you're, what's the word I'm looking for? The repercussions of your actions might catch up to you, which is.
So that's where I did not have and that's where I kind of want to put our role. Mm-hmm. This is where I want our role to go, is putting the empathy and emotional intelligence that I have now in 18-year-old Chris. Would I have even moved out of my house?
Ooh, that's a good one to roll on.
Because I want to, this isn't, of course, it's the roll of the dice, but it's like I want to think on that, on like if even those feelings that I had were in me right now, would I do something drastic to change that?
Yeah.
Like we were just talking pre-show about rejection and isolation.
Yeah, rejection and isolation can be very detrimental and damaging to people, especially the psychosis.
So would I right now, well, like last night I was feeling it. So did I do something drastic? No. I kind of wallowed, but I didn't do anything super drastic. So maybe I would have just done that. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, that's something I was going to say. Is you said you wanted to make moving out make sense. Well, at 18, like you said, we're dumb, we're young. We think, man, I know everything. I can take on the world. And we really don't. We don't even understand the cost of bills. We just think that we're grown up and it's time to tell mom and dad to take a hike. I mean, hell, like I said, I did it at 19 where I was just like, I want to live on my own. And, bills were coming up literally in 3 weeks. And the week before, I went and got a tattoo on a spur of a whim. And then I text my new roommate and said, hey, man, I might not be able to make bills because I just got a tattoo. Huh? What? That's a thing.
Yeah,
exactly. I was like, that's a dumb idea. Granted, we weren't that bad off. I know I was just in a bad mood. So, to make it make sense, I do. I think that's a good role, right? The idea of if you took the empathy and the understanding of things you have now, and put them into 18-year-old Chris, would it have made things better? Potentially, we'll see. Moving out, what makes it make sense? I think another role for that potentially is having an understanding of adulthood and having a drive to maybe like to prove to your parents that like you can be your own adults.
Right.
Like
I didn't have that.
Yeah, we all have the ego, but do we actually have the knowledge and skill set? Unlikely.
I actually, and I will say this, like as much as I thought I could, I didn't really have a drive to prove that I could.
Right. And I didn't either.
I right now have a drive and a motivation to prove that I can do the things that I'm doing in my personal life. I have like a want to prove to myself and to just the universe at large that I can be a good father figure and be a really good, worker. You know what I mean? Like advance in my career in chosen fields and things like that. And so I have drive to want to do that. Back then I was just like, I can do it.
Yeah.
I didn't okay. Side tangent, music.
Mm-hmm.
I had been wanting to be a musician and be in a band since I was, 17 years old, 16, whatever.
Yeah.
But I never had the drive and motivation, even though I own guitars and all this stuff, to sit down and practice and play.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think I could have been pretty good. I could have, because I picked up drums so easily. Like there's a possibility that if I would have tried to play guitar and done that, I did write songs at one point in time. I probably could have done that and played guitar and been in bands that way. But I didn't have the drive and motivation to be successful or be, competent at that. Because but I thought I could. I was like, oh yeah, I could probably do it, but I didn't have the motivation to do it. Now I have the motivation and drive to want to be good, and I think I could be good at drums now and other things in my life.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like I said, because that was again me being at that age. I didn't have the drive for any of that, and like you said, you hit a point where you maybe it's not nature. Maybe it's a nature thing, where like if there's enough people around you telling you that you're not able to do something, it motivates you to be better at it and prove them wrong. But at the same time, it can really destroy your drive as well. So hard to say as I make the 7 hands over here.
I think that depends a lot on, so that's the nature and nurture of it. So I think your natural, self-confidence or whatnot is what allows you to be able to use it either as motivation or lets it get you, down in the dumps when someone tells you can't do something. So like the nurture part of it is someone, being negative. And then the nature is what is your natural reaction to it. And then you have this ability, human beings have this keen ability to block whatever that feeling is out and go the opposite of even that.
Very true. Very true.
So
we are stubborn creatures.
We are. We can, even though something gets us down the dumps about something, we can fight through it and put ourselves in a better spot. And sometimes, even though things are really going great, we can self-sabotage. I'm not sure if other creatures do that.
I don't know.
Does a cat, like, if it can't catch a bird, right? Is it defeated to the point to where it's not gonna go get another bird because it didn't get that one, and it's just gonna be like, I can't ever get birds.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm not good at getting birds, so I'm not gonna do it. And then it, doesn't do that. No, I think a cat doesn't get that bird. It goes, crap. Okay. Oh, bird.
On to the next. Yeah.
It moves on to the next. But humans, some of us go, oh, I can't get that bird. Well, I'm never going to get birds. In fact, I'm just going to try to I'm just going to eat worms now because I can't get this bird. I'm not supposed to eat worms, but I'm going to eat worms anyway because it's easier. And then people can also go, oh, I can't get that bird. Well, I'm going to get 15 birds now just to show just to show everyone else that I can get birds. I can get more birds. And other creatures don't do that really, I don't think.
No, I think you're right. I think that primal nature of animals, they don't have that. That's kind of one of those things that sets us apart, right? Is like humans have this processing power through conscious and thought and speech and everything that we're like, we can be so like our biggest enemy is ourselves. Whereas animals just kind of, this is how I survive. This is what I do. And it doesn't stop them. Like, like it takes training to get your dog to stop peeing in the house. Yep. And yet it'll still do it if you're not around, and you can't be there to let it out on its normal schedule that it's trained itself to, or you've trained it to. So
I think that's where I was at with leaving the house. I was like a dog that had been so used to being a certain type of way at my home, but when the owners were gone, living on my own, I'm wilding out. I'm running all around the yard. Like I'm digging up the turnips. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm being rowdy kid because no one's watching me.
Oh, and I think that's something we all deal with. I think that first attempt at moving out, living on our own, we're all so excited. Like, no more rules, no bedtime, no curfew. I can do what I want. I can eat what I want. And it's like out of that act of rebellion. And then we quickly learn like, hey, you're building habits for your future here that are destructive, and you should probably pull back and start learning how to be a more functioning human being. But then the people we surround ourselves with also influence that. And so that's a big, like, because I think about it, like, when did, like, I'm trying to think, the first time I probably started pulling out of like my bad habits of being a young adult were because, one, the pursuit of women and wanting to have a relationship.
Yeah.
And two, having a roommate who was like, dude, why do you do this thing? Stop. So like, you know, like I had a roommate that we're great friends. We're still, you know, still very much best friends. But when we lived together, we were passive aggressive to each other to crazy extents, like to the point that like we would stay in our own rooms and not hang out together. And we'd have company come over who would be friends with both of us, but we would not hang out with each other when we were upset with each other. It was so weird.
Yeah, that can happen in a roommate situation.
But you eventually you have to learn, like, oh, everything's a give and take, you know, like whether it be with your family, your friends, your partners, everything is a balance and a give and take. I will say one role though that we should do also is if young Chris had listened to the ads and specials at school and TV about peer pressure and embodied those somewhere.
Let's roll. Let's roll now. This has been a very good discussion on the real life positive C right here. I think it's time to put it into Dice's hands to see if that future or past would have, you know, led to this future of speaking into a microphone.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Positive C, and you're probably already listening to my voice, but if you want to hear my voice, James's voice, our buddy Leo's voice, Will Shotwell, and others' voices talk about what it's like coming from little Zaboys to big manly men right now, you should join our other show on Acast called Zaboys to Men. Coming out every third Wednesday, we will delve into plenty of topics like work-life balance, exercise, all the sorts of things that us adults are having to really focus on instead of pop culture BS like you're listening to right now. So join us every third Wednesday for Make It Make Sense anywhere you can find Zaboys podcast.
All right. Well, I think you said it best, man. It's time to roll. So which one do you want to roll on first?
Let's roll with the empathy. Let's roll with putting empathy of a 37-year-old Chris. Am I 38? I don't know how old I am right now.
Someone gave me a quick tip for it the other day, and I've already forgotten. Yeah. It was something like, take your age... And then I
know how old I am. I know how old I am because I was born in 1987. So next year I will be 40. It's not my birthday yet in 2026. So I am 38.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. I usually just have to pull out a calculator and go, whatever the year it is, 2026 minus 1988. And then I'm like, then I'm like, wait, is that correct? Because September is weird. So... Maybe we just get to that point where we start lying and just telling people we're 35 and we're just forever 35.
36 right there.
All right. So empathy, taking adult empathy and putting it into an 18-year-old. Does this work? That's a 4.
Oh, boy.
So no, it does not work. If anything, it probably just messes that poor 18-year-old Chris up even more because now you're like, it would be cool. But I care about people.
Maybe I don't commit. So hear me out. Maybe I don't commit crimes, but I commit an even worse sin. I become an emo singer-songwriter. And and we all know where that leads, and it's a good thing that never went there because that just never a good thing. I've avoided any type of allegation my entire life. If I became, especially in 2006, if I would have become a pure emo singer-songwriter, the future is not good. If we're gonna think about it, that low roll, I still end up a not good person at some point.
There's a high probability that you start living in your glory days and start being predatorial towards young women who still find you attractive because of your kind of femboy look to things.
Yeah. Oh,
Not
yeah.
saying that you look like a femboy. I'm saying, have you gone that emo route? Yeah, you'd be riding the whole like, emo femboy look thing still, like, because we've seen it. We've seen a lot of musicians who were very big in that time period who have done some pretty despicable things. And,
The 4 is not good. That is not good. All right.
Yeah.
So the next role is...
The 4 reminds me of that movie, The Butterfly Effect, with Ashton Kutcher, where like every time that he tries to make the past better, it just gets progressively darker and more messed up.
Yeah. I don't want to. No way, Chris.
All right. So had young Chris listen to peer pressure advertisements and specials. That's a 19. So maybe it would have made you a much more frightened and normal child. Mm-hmm. But you probably would have ended up somewhere in corporate America, and sure, your bills would be paid right now, and doesn't mean you'd be happy. It just means that you'd probably like the rest of us, where you're just kind of a shell of a human being going through the motions of like, this is life. I exist to pay bills and make sure the government's happy.
Yep. There's a good chance that could have happened like that. I wouldn't have hung out with the alternative kids and stuff like that. My whole worldview would probably be a lot different because I wouldn't be a rebel, and I wouldn't have spent time. I wouldn't have spent time in prison, so I wouldn't have gotten that interesting look at the world. I wouldn't have. Spend as much time, on the run was being on the lam was interesting. I got to see sides of the world I never really thought I would, just because I was living a interesting little life. And so, I probably would be a little bit more straight laced, no Panther revival. Wouldn't be drumming in some rebel punk band. Oh man, no way. But
you wouldn't have had to worry about seeing The Dark Knight. So.
Yeah. I was actually not disappointed. That was worth it.
Quite the trade-off.
It was Heath Ledger, and underrated Aaron Eckhart, by the way, in that movie. Aaron Eckhart nails Harvey Dent.
Yeah. Did we have a third role for this? I don't remember. If we did.
No. I think that's good. I think we've had our fill of Positive C's criminal history. Maybe we'll just do a whole podcast, Positive C's criminal history. If you want to hear that potential podcast, you'll probably have to look up Zaboys Media all over the place. You can go to Google, you can go to YouTube, you can probably just go to Instagram, type in Zaboys Media. We're there. In fact, what's really cool? If you go and Google Zaboys Media, just type that in. Everything is just us. It's just it looks like we belong. It's so great. Acast is there where you're listening to this. Unless you're listening to it on Spotify, because you can find us there, Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, and iTunes Podcast, or that's the same thing. Amazon
Music.
Yeah.
We're on others. It only took us 12 years, but we finally eclipsed and took over that foreign boy band.
Yeah. The Zaboys. Yeah. No. We are okay. So shout out to, I think there's a podcast called Zaboys, and they talk about pizza, I believe. So shout out to the Zaboys. We should probably get them on, and we can talk pizza and bad plans here on Make It Make Sense. I am Positive C. That's Jim the Brainbox Stormquist. We will see you next time. Monowea, and stay gold, Pony Boy.
Thank you for listening to Make It Make Sense, a Zaboys podcast. If you like what you're hearing, follow along with us and add us to your little list or whatever on Spotify or wherever you're listening. If you'd like to hear some of our previous stuff, you can always check us out on YouTube at Zaboys Media Network for some of our past work, or by searching on Spotify for The Locals Connection with a Z. That's The Locals Connection. Thank you again for listening. Monowea, and stay gold, Pony Boy.